everybody, Legend for Life here, bringing you guys a brand new blast from the past. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but this time around we are going to talk about the Butterspy archetype. Now this archetype I actually really like, but it's one of the more under-supported archetypes from Zexal, and Zexal was notorious for having under-supported archetypes. Most of the archetypes that were used by like people who had like 1 or 2 duels from the anime, and because they never dueled again, their archetype that they got that was released was very, very under-supported and didn't really get much else. Now, today, obviously, Butterspies were used by the character from Zexal named Dextra. She was an interesting character, but she only got like 2 or 3 duels in, and really the most notable one was against Fetrix, where she lost, and they screwed up her memories for some reason afterwards. And after that, she didn't really duel again. For what I know of, she did duel again later on in the second part of the series. Like they had Zexal and Zexal 2, but I've never seen Zexal 2. I've seen most of Zexal 1, so I honestly, aside from that one duel with Vextrix, I don't know how much she got to duel elsewhere. And I don't even know if she's in the manga, so we don't know if this deck is going to get any more support, which really, really sucks, because it has an interesting, like, concept for a playstyle here. Not to mention a butterfly archetype is pretty cool, but, like, it's not very fleshed out at all, and that's mostly because of how under-supported it is. And granted, they got a crap ton of anime cards here that we've never got them printed. So, let's go ahead and start covering these. So, first and foremost is the main deck monster, Swallowtail Butterspy. She is a Dark Warrior, level 4. They're all Dark Warriors and level 4s, except for, I think, yeah, Papillon here is a Light and an Insect. So, aside from Papillon, all of them are Dark Warriors and level 4s. Likewise, all the XYZs are Warrior rank 4s, and 2 of them are Lights, the other is a Dark. So, Swallowtail Butterspy here, 1800 attack, 1200 defense, pretty decent for a level 4. When another monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, it loses attack equal to the battle damage inflicted. I actually really like this effect. If you have something that can attack directly and it does a decent amount of damage, you can drop a monster down pretty low. Not to mention, this is not once per turn, so it can trigger multiple times, and if you happen to have multiple of it out, it does trigger all of their effects, which is really, really, really funny. It's not a once per turn, and it's not a hard once per turn, so it can just really, really, really weaken your opponent's monsters. Granted, though, it doesn't really... Like, it does target, which is a big issue nowadays. Back whenever it first came out, that wasn't as big of an issue. But it does target. Monster effects are somewhat easy to negate. Not to mention, it's gotta be another monster. So, that kind of sucks. And also, none of the monsters in the deck actually, like, are able to attack directly, which kind of sucks. Next up is Moonlit Papillon, level 4 Insect Lights, 1200 attack, 1600 defense. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can spell summon 1 level 4 or lower Butterspy monster from your deck. Now the nice thing about this is that it does not have to be destroyed, it can be sent to the graveyard from the field in any way whatsoever, and then you just get anybody. Except for Blue Mountain Butterspy, that's the only exception. And then we got Morpho Butterspy, a level 4 Dark Warrior, blah blah blah, 1200 attack, 1600 defense, the exact same stats as Moonlit Papillon for some reason. Once per turn, when the battle position of a opponent's monsters is changed, except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters. It loses attack, 1,000 attack and defense. So this is the weird thing about Butterspies, is their whole thing is you can change attack and defense and also battle position. Usually, whenever you change battle position, it changes the attack and defense. Granted, though, only 2 cards in the archetype, with the exception of the trap cards, actually do this. So it's very, very weird. It's like that's the idea of what this deck is supposed to do, but only 2 monsters in the deck do it, and then I believe both traps have some sort of effect along with that as well. So yeah, it's a very, very, very weird thing. It's like that's their gimmick, but they don't do. But not all the cards have some sort of way of benefiting off of that gimmick. Next up is Blue Mountain Butterspy. This card is actually really, 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 really good, and people use it for other decks. So Blue Mountain Butterspy, 0 attack, 1700 defense, not really a big thing there. Cannot be normal summon or set. When you normal summon a warrior type monster, you can spell summon this card from your hand. This card cannot be used as a synchro material. Oh, so it can't be spell summoned off of Bloom and Papillon. For some reason I had in my head that it couldn't be, but whatever. So it cannot be normal summon or set, and you can pretty much, you can spell summon this card when you normal summon another dude. So basically the idea is that this card is supposed to be kind of like a Tin Goldfish or a Kage Tokage, stuff like that. It's just an Xyz maker, and it's pretty good at it too. So is that a beanie on its head? Kind of looks like a beanie. just something I want to point out. Next up is for their spell cards. They have one spell card, and it's not even technically exclusive to them, but it was used by the character who uses them, and it does feature a Butterspy in the artwork. I think it kind of looks like a butterfly, so whatever. Berserk Scales, it's a spell, it's a quick play. Target one face-up monster you control except a monster that is attacking directly. It gains 1,000 attack but cannot attack your opponent directly for the rest of the turn, and in the end phase of this turn it loses 2,000 attack. So you attack, you give it 1,000, and then it drops by 2,000 to end phase. The nice thing about this card is that if you use it for an Xyz summon during main phase 2, you don't really have to worry about that as much. But however, it's honestly not all that great. Like it's okay for running over stuff, and I think like a deck like Gladiator Beast could probably use it more than this deck, but it just isn't that great of an effect overall. It drops by 2,000, and it's an okay card at best. And again, it's better suited for Gladiator Beast, honestly. They do have two trap cards, both of which are pretty good. This card's the better one though, in my personal opinion, because it actually has stuff to do with the actual archetype's gimmick. Butterspy Protection, target one face-up attack position monster on the field, change it to face-up defense position. Any damage you take for the rest of the turn is halved. I really like that. It just protects your stuff, it reduces the damage, and it switches it to defense, which allows you to do other shenanigans. Next up is Butterfly Yoke. When opponent's attacking monster declares, when opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, change that target to defense position, and if you do, equip this card to that monster. Once per turn during either player's main phase or battle phase, you can change the equipped monster's battle position. Really nice trap card. I like it quite a bit. Again, like protection, it does a lot with the gimmick for the deck, and really honestly, it's kind of sad that the trap cards do more for the gimmick than the actual monsters. I mean, Morpho is very interesting, and again, like everybody knows what Photon Poppy Operative does. So yeah, both trap cards are very good for the deck's gimmick, but however, they are heavily reliant on your opponent's monster acquiring an attack. It's kind of really sad. I mean, granted though, protection is a bit better because you can use it just like on any attack versus a monster. It doesn't have to be reliant on that monster attacking. But however, it's not as good as Butterfly Yoke because it is not like a latch-on trap card. That being said though, it can be considered better because any battle damage you take for the rest of the turn is halved, and it's not even just battle damage, it's any damage, so effect damage as well. So as to which one's better, it's really a tough like choice. Like honestly, I think Butterfly Yoke is a bit better because it latches on and it stays on, but however, that also means it's susceptible to things like MST a bit more. Butterspy Protection can be changed to stuff like MST and Twin Twister, so it's a bit better in that regard. Honestly, just avoid both trap cards are really good. But whenever you take into consideration of other things, they are both good for certain situations and bad in certain situations. It's a really tough knock-up choice. I don't know what the word I'm looking for between which one's better. Now then, for the XYZ monsters, they have three. And honestly, I like all three, but I honestly really feel like that Photon Alexander Queen is probably the best, and it's Night Poppy Operative is kind of good as well. I mean, it's really a knock-up. So, Photon Poppy Operative, for some reason, two of these monsters are Photon's. Kind of weird. It has something to do with the story in the TV show. So, Photon Poppy Operative, everybody knows what this card does because it was used so heavily in wind-ups way back in the day, and even for a while in other decks. It was just one of those good generic rank 4s. Nowadays, though, it's not as good as it used to be. So it's a 2100 attacker, light warrior, 1800 defense. 2 level 4s to go into, so it's generic. Stats are pretty good overall. Not as good as it used to be back in the day, but yeah, whatever. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card. Target 1 defense position monster in the field. Change it to face-up attack position, and if you do, it loses 600 attack. Very, very nice effect, but the issue is not a lot of creatures go on defense anymore, and the attack loss is very, very nice. But however, this effect targets, and targeting, as you guys know, is not as good as it used to be, and also just things in defense creatures don't really get summoned in defense too much anymore. Not to mention, there's just better options. I mean, the best thing about this card is that it really is one of only, 4 cards in this deck that you really utilize the gimmick of the deck, and so that's what makes it good in its actual archetype. But however, outside of the archetype and as just a generic Xyz, it's honestly not as good as it used to be. Next up is Photon Alexander Queen. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck. It makes me want to play the deck. So it's a level 4 light warrior, 2400 attack, 1200 defense, 2 level 4 Butterspy monsters. You can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, return all monsters on the field to the hand, and then inflict 300 damage to each player for each card returned to their hand. So at max, you can do, 1500 damage to a player for this. Now, ideally, you would be summoning this and using this effect on that turn. But honestly, Alexander Queen, as good as the effect is, because it's just generic board wipe and getting rid of everything and doing damage, and it can actually steal games. It does return itself, which is a bit of a sad thing. But however, it can win games, and it does do damage to you, which can honestly really, really hurt. I really, really wish this was a quick effect so you can do it during your player's turn. If it was a quick effect, it'd be a whole lot better. The other downside is that you can't use Papillon for it, which kind of sucks, but makes sense because Papillon is supportive for the other things. But however, if only 3 monsters in the archetype that you can use to summon this card, it's a bit hard to do. Honestly, I think Konami really, really needs to go and give this deck more monsters is the big thing. Maybe some more spells and traps that also facilitate the actual gimmick of the deck. And it just really kind of sucks that this deck did not get much support at all, because it's a very interesting deck, and they have a very interesting boss monster in Photon Alexander Queen. I like the effect. It's not bad. It's just non-targeting mass removal for monsters. Granted though, yes, it does return into the hand, and for monsters that are from the extra deck and stuff, it goes back to the extra deck obviously, and it's just very, very good in that sense, because non-targeting, non-destruction mass removal is very, 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 very good overall, especially in this format, because you're just able to get rid of all of your opponent's stuff. The biggest hindrance to this card is that it's not a quick effect. Next up is Night Poppy Operative. Really hard to say. It's a pretty good beater is basically what this thing is. So it's a 2600 beat stick, needs 3 level 4s to go into, which obviously is not the easiest thing to do. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Exceed material from this card. This card gains 300 attack for each Exceed material attached to a monster on the field. So just by detaching 1 for itself, it'll get 600 because it will still have 2. And then for every other XYZ material attached to a monster on the field, it gains 300 attack, which means this card can get really, 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 really high in attack power if there are a lot of XYZ monsters on the field. But obviously, it's totally reliant on there being a crap ton of XYZ monsters on the field. That's the big issue. Now, honestly, this card would be really funny going into against Junichi, because their whole thing is stacking a single XYZ monster of a crap ton of XYZ materials. I think I think Wild Blow needs, 10 or so XYZ materials? Okay, so okay, so they did change it to Zodiac Beast. Wild Blow needs, 10 or 12. Yeah, 12. So just if you're going against Junichi, that would be, oh dear god, a crap a ton of attack power. I kind of want to do the math on this because it does intrigue me. Let's see. If you're going against Junichi, 12 times 300 equals, so that'd be 3600 just on the opposing Wild Blow, and then plus the 600 from herself. That would be, 4200? Yeah, 4200. That's a crap ton of attack power, adding on to its already beefy 26. So you can get this card to insane amounts of attack power depending on what deck you're doing against and also how many XYZ monsters are on the field. Now then, for their anime stuff, they have 7 spells and trap cards, 5 spells, 2 traps. That's a lot, and honestly a lot of them are centered around burn damage, but some of them are very, 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 very good and would help out the deck quite a bit. So first and foremost is Dance of the Butterfly, normal spell card. If there's a face-up field spell card on the field, special summon 2 level 4 or lower Butterspy monsters from your hand. Monsters you control cannot attack this turn. The biggest issue with this card is this deck does not have a field spell, like even in the anime. The reason why this card was even used is because in the anime, when this card was used, Dextra was dueling in like a competition where there was a field spell active at all times. So this card is very interesting. It's an auto rank 4 kind of. It locks you out of your attack, but if you're going to be using this during like your first turn when you can't attack anyways, it doesn't matter. That being said, this card would be really, really good if this deck got a field spell and got a good field spell at that. Not only that, but also I feel like this card should be able to summon like 1 from hand, 1 from deck or something, or maybe both from deck, because exhausting 2 cards out of your hand, that's 3 cards. That's a you're taking 3 cards out of your hand. You start off with 5. That leaves you with 2 in your hand, and that could be anything. It could even be another copy of this card. So I really feel like this card would be much, much better if you could summon a card. Sorry, at least one of them from the deck. Next up is Assassin's Gate, or Eliminate, as it was called in TCG, you know, like 4Kids Dough, I guess. Spell, continuous. When a monster declares an attack, except a Butterspy or Poppy Operative monster, negate the attack, and if you do, destroy that monster. If there are no Butterspy or Poppy Operative monsters on the field, destroy this card. Very, very interesting. Doesn't really do much for the actual archetype, aside from protection. And also locking you into your own stuff. But the biggest thing is that it doesn't do anything for the actual archetype other than protection. I do like it though. Next up is Butterfly Ballet. Pay 1,000 life points to activate this card. You can reveal any number of Butterspy monsters in your hand, inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card revealed. You can only use the effect of Butterfly Ballet once per turn. Again, very interesting card. It doesn't do anything for the actual archetype, but is able to put pressure on your opponent by doing a crap ton of burn damage to them. So like just having 3, that'd be 900 damage. 4 would be like 1,200. It can just get, it can pile on. That's once per turn, guys. You can do that once per turn every turn. So as long as your opponent doesn't like try to destroy it, that can really, really pile on to burn damage. That being said, though, it does show your opponent what you have in your hand. They can figure it out relatively easily, and of course, as the turns go by, you're going to be exhausting through your hand. You're going to be getting your monsters out on the field, and honestly, also not only that, but also we don't have that many Poppy Operatives that can, Butterspies that can even be in your hand. Total of 3. That means a max of 12. So really, honestly, the chances of doing a crap ton of burn damage is not very high. Next up is Butterfly Charm. Continuous spell card. Monsters your opponent controls must attack if able, so obviously it's supposed to go along with Assassin Gate. During your opponent's end phase, destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls that did not declare an attack this turn. So it's kind of like Savage Coliseum, if I remember correctly, on Savage Coliseum's effect, and if that's even what that card is called. Yeah, that's right. So it's kind of like a Savage Coliseum. It's a okay card. It just kind of really works with Assassin's Gate, and that's about it. Next up is Butterfly Swarm, continuous spell card. Activate by paying 2,000 life points. So you're paying 3,000 life points to activate these 2 spell cards in tandem. During each of your standby phases, pay 2,000 life points or destroy this card. Oh boy. When a monster on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, inflict 1,500 damage to its controller. Obviously, this card is supposed to work with this, and it forms a whole lock that Dextra did in the anime, and it's just supposed to do a crap ton of burn damage and basically kind of like OTK your opponent. It's an okay combo. It's a 4-card combo though, like to get this, and this, and really honestly, you don't even need this for the combo. So that's a 3-card combo, and you need to have at least a Butterspy out to keep Butterfly. Crap, where is it? Oh yeah, Assassin's Gate out on the field. So it's a very, very intricate combo, and again, it doesn't do anything for the actual deck. The actual deck is supposed to be all about, you know, changing attack and defense, and also changing your opponent's monsters' battle positions. None of these cards actually do any of that. This card I like because it can allow for an auto rank 4 XCs, but still, it's just, it doesn't support the actual deck is the big thing. Next up is Imposing Phantom Butterfly. When an opponent's monster clears an attack, change the attack target to another face-up attack resistant Butterspy monster. The idea of this card is that it's supposed to be kind of like, I think she used this with Nistro's Bouncer deck while they were in a tag duel, and the whole idea was protecting your opponent's, like your teammates' monsters and stuff. This card is okay. I mean, if your opponent attacks a weaker one, like Morpho, then you can redirect it to Swallowtail. The issue with this is that, generally speaking, you're not going to have a Butterspy out because you're going to be making these, or any other rank 4. So, it's an okay trap at best. And then finally, we have Butterfly Mist, a continuous trap card. When you take damage from an opponent's card effect while you control a Butterspy monster, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So, obviously, it's supposed to go along with these cards as well. Again, this card is okay. It doesn't do anything for the actual deck. I would have preferred it if, like, it says you do not have to pay life points for card effects and stuff. That way you could actually do these without, like, worrying about a crap ton of life point damage. Again, it's an okay card at best. It doesn't do anything for the actual deck. So, what do I think this deck needs to be able to be even somewhat relevant as a fun little deck to play? First thing first, it needs more monsters, like, just even more names. I don't really care what they do, so long as they are more names. That's what the deck really, really needs. Could use another 2 or 3 spells, could use some more trap cards, preferably ones that don't need your opponent's monster to be in attack mode or to attack. I feel like DXCs, they could use, like, maybe 1 or 2 more, preferably something that, maybe does more with the actual deck and everything, and alters, like, you know, like battle positions and stuff. And, like, really, that's all they really need. Maybe a better version of this card, but that's about it. Like, these cards are irrelevant and don't really do anything for the deck. And I really feel like that, like, a better version of Dance with the Butterspy could really, really, really help out the deck. So, guys, that's my thoughts and opinions on Butterspies. What are your guys' thoughts and everything? What do you think the deck could use? What do you think do you think Konami will give this deck more stuff? Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and see you all